You can pause. Yeah. Far left. Yep.
Unpause.
Are we unpaused and ready to rock and roll? Okay. Good evening. I would like to call to order the Public Information, Truth, and Taxation meeting. It is Wednesday, December 18th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. We are at City Hall. All council members, with the exception of Mr. Gary Johnson, are present, as well as City Administrator and the City Clerk. So, I'm going to just turn it over to Jenny, and you can give us whatever tweaks you have, and we will move forward.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Hedman, and good evening, members of the council. I have a short presentation that I will go through with everyone, just so it's on the record, in case anybody listens after the fact, about our 2020 budget and our 2019 Pay 2020 property tax levy. So state statute requires that we hold a public hearing prior to approving our budget and our levy for the upcoming year. This meeting is not intended to discuss property valuations or classifications. That is handled through the Land Services Department at the county, and there's contact information here on our screen for anyone who has questions about that. So you can talk with them any time of year about your property, any property questions. We will tonight just stick specifically to budget information and levy information, and this meeting is hopefully just going to hit some of the high points to give a general understanding of where the city of Nisswa is at for 2020. So city budgets are divided into separate funds based on their purposes. So law requires and accounting practices require that the activities for certain aspects of city operations are maintained separately to account for those activities, so we can see where things are taking place. So for example, we're not going to include expenses from our liquor fund in our general fund or anything similar in that way. We want to keep them separate and account for them that way, so we understand how healthy they are and how much money we have with respect to each of the fund. So we have our major governmental funds, which is our general fund, which comprises of basically all of the main operation departments of the city, and our debt service fund. So for our bonds that we have outstanding, we include that in our governmental funds. Our proprietary funds, these are our business fund accounts. We have our liquor fund, which is our Spirits of Nisswa and the Pickle Factory, and our sewer fund. So that's all accounted for separately. It's more of a business type transaction approach that we take to account for the revenues and expenditures in those funds. Our non-major funds, if we have capital projects, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, and special revenue, that would be our community center and our Parks Department, because those are smaller funds overall, so they are categorized in that way. So I've highlighted here our 2019, our current budget, and our proposed budget for 2020. It's very summarized on the screen into those three major categories as I described on the previous slide. And so for most of what we're looking at tonight is our general fund. That falls under our major governmental funds again. For 2020, our proposed budget, both revenues and expenditures, will be $3,033,048. Both for revenues and expenditures, which means we have a balanced budget, which is our goal, certainly every year, and there are reasons to not end up there, but if we can, that's a very positive thing, and it's reflected very well with our audits and with any credit rating agencies when we might need to utilize that. For our proposed levy payable in 2020, in September, the council approved our preliminary levy amount at $2,553,493, which reflected a 9% increase over our 2019 levy. At that point, we could decrease our final levy. We cannot increase it. So we set the ceiling at that point. Mid-November, the county mailed property tax statements out to all the property owners. And tonight is, again, when we're having our public hearing to get feedback from the public on our final levy. And then during our regular meeting, the council will approve our final 2020 budget and our final 2019 pay 2020 levy. When the council approved the preliminary levy at the maximum 9% increase in September, some of the reasons for doing so, at that point we had not settled on one of our union contracts, and so we had an unknown there and where those wages and benefits might land. So we provided for some cushion to wait until some of that information was known. We've talked during our budgeting process about what the future road project costs will be for the county road projects upcoming for us in the next couple of years. We had some other road maintenance needs increased for crack sealing and patching and things like that. We've discussed and we have worked on a vehicle equipment matrix implementation plan to get all of our heavy-duty equipment on a system so we can keep that turning over at an appropriate time to minimize operations costs with the equipment. Our 2018 bond issuance fully will come online in 2020, and so there was a small increase after the 2014 bond came off, and the 2018 is coming online. And we did have an additional expenditure side add for an additional clerk employee that the council authorized to move forward with at our November meeting. On the revenue side, we looked at general fund revenues and determined that some of our revenue line items had been very conservatively budgeted for in the past, and after doing a look back over a few years and seeing that we can, based on the trends, we could increase those revenues, so we more appropriately added revenues there. And then the council also decided to increase the transfer from our liquor fund to help offset that levy increase, so we could lower that as well. So the council took a balanced approach for 2020 as far as minimizing the expenditure increases that we could and also increasing the revenues where we could do that as well. So that was a really good approach to do that. So what the council will be approving tonight at the regular meeting is a final proposed 2019 pay 2020 levy in the amount of $2,465,015. That reflects a 5.22% increase. Oh, I went too fast. 5.22% increase over 2019. And it was a decrease of just over $88,000 from the preliminary levy in September. So again, our final percentage increase over the 2019 levy is 5.22%. Just a few other pieces of information to share. As far as final tax rates for 2019, Nisswa was same as a year ago. We are the 5th lowest tax rate in the county, and 2nd lowest when we compare like cities. Really, Cross Lake would be the only comparable city that has a lower tax rate than us at this time. So I think that the city is doing very well in managing our expenditures and hopefully providing great service at a good value for our citizens. This next slide just shares the classification breakdown for all types of properties between residential, commercial, seasonal, agricultural, apartment, and resort. 45% of our property is classified as residential, and 42% is classified as seasonal. So by almost 90% of those two categories is how our community is classified. The overall increase in value over 2018 was approximately 10%. And I didn't give you the specific numbers for each category, but when I looked at that today, it was pretty consistent across all classifications, the increase. So it wasn't as if one went up, commercial went up significantly and residential didn't. They all really consistently went up. We did talk briefly before We will still see a significant amount of the development for Grandview come online in 2021. So the hotel and the rec center was not complete for this last property assessment, and only about half of the garden cottages were online at this last assessment from the county. Excuse me. So we will still see an increase in values for the city over the next year, probably too in other ways as well, which is nice, very nice to see the growth. That is all I had for a prepared presentation. I would be happy to answer questions from the council. I would offer an opportunity for public input, but since we don't have any, unless Nancy would like to ask a lot of questions, no. I will turn it back over to Mayor Heidman and go from there.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. Open it up for questions from council. Don?
5.22 is a lot better than 9.
That's not a question.
Yeah, that's right.
That wasn't a question, that was a statement.
3 is
Hopefully we feel good. We feel good about it.
What is Don's opinion? It's like Jeopardy.
that 5, yeah.
I feel good. Good job. Yeah.
The 5 is better than 9, and 3 is better than 5.
Unless
1
we're
is
talking
better
about
than
raises.
3.
Not necessarily.
No questions then?
Looks pretty clean to me.
Ditto.
Yeah, I appreciate all the work that's been put into this, Jenny. And I would just, and I would, probably share, hopefully the council feels the same way. I think it's just been the word I would use is a blessing to have somebody who's been able to kind of pull all of the departments together and work with them directly on helping put together the budget and planning, costs and laying those out, with matrices or by, 10-year schedules. That's a wonderful improvement, and I think it makes it a lot better, or a lot easier for the council and future councils to understand that and be aware, and I thank you for that.
Here, here.
Any other comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Just a suggestion, we should probably hold it open for another 10 minutes in case somebody walks in a little bit late, just on principle.
Well,
Suggestion.
You sure can, or you could just offer to take comment before approving at the regular meeting too. Either way.
I would probably prefer to do that.
Whatever.
I mean, I understand. I understand. I don't want to.
Get my snarky comments off the record.
Yeah, that's right. What we talk about in the next 10 minutes or so, it's probably best to. So, is there a motion, or do we want to, or would we like to wait?
I'll move to adjourn the special.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Yep.
Okay, there's a second. Any questions on motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Motion to adjourn.
Second, or so moved. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. We will
We did that twice.
We maybe did.